He put her on the surfboard and was able to kind of push her close enough to shore. You can see a shadow on the bottom of the seafloor, pulled him up and put him on top of the surfboard. There, they worked on Mr. Warner for at least 30 minutes, and then he was unfortunately pronounced dead.
Would it have been a different outcome if there had been a lifeguard on duty that day?
100%. This would have been avoided.
Was Malcolm-Jamal Warner silenced? And is his family quietly sounding the alarm? That's what fans are asking after leaked reports suggest those closest to him never truly believed the official story. At first, the world was told Malcolm drowned during a family vacation in Costa Rica. A tragic loss, yes, but just an accident, they said. But that explanation isn't sitting right with everyone. More than a few fans have pointed out that key details don't add up. Now rumors are spreading that his family has concerns they tried to keep private until pieces started leaking. These so-called leaks suggest the family has quietly been pushing for answers, unsure whether to believe the story they were handed. From a missing timeline to a haunting final podcast dropped just 2 days before his death, it all feels like a warning that was never meant to be understood. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was more than a celebrity, he was a truth teller. And when voices like that suddenly go quiet under mysterious circumstances, people notice. The fact that his family's alleged doubts are starting to surface only makes this more unsettling. Whether you've followed him for years or are just now learning about this story, one thing is clear: there are too many loose ends to ignore. If even part of what's being whispered is true, then this wasn't just a freak accident, it might have been a message. And by the time we lay it all out, you'll understand why this story has fans and his own family searching for something deeper. The first headlines were quick and clean: Malcolm-Jamal Warner, dead at 54. A drowning accident, end of story. But the more people heard that version, the more it didn't sit right. According to reports, Malcolm was swimming at a beach in Costa Rica known for dangerous currents. Bystanders tried to help, but by the time emergency crews arrived, he was unresponsive. The Red Cross confirmed his death, and officials ruled it a tragic accident. The story spread fast. No foul play, no investigation. But right away, sources close to the family started raising questions. They reportedly felt something was off. The timeline didn't make sense, and too many details were vague or missing. While the public mourned, the family quietly began pushing for answers. When families question the official version, it's often because what they're being told doesn't line up with what they know. In this case, reports say their doubts weren't just emotional, they were logical. Why was the case wrapped up so fast? Why weren't more questions asked? And why are key details still unclear? The speed of the response, the lack of transparency, it all felt too convenient. According to sources, the family didn't want to believe there was more to the story, but the silence around Malcolm's death, that's what forced them to look again. Because for them, this wasn't just loss, it felt like a cover-up waiting to unravel. If this really was just an accident, then where's the evidence? That's a question fans keep asking, and the silence is getting louder. Playa Cocles, where Malcolm drowned, isn't some quiet, isolated stretch of sand. It's a busy tourist hotspot, filled with people nearly every day. But despite that, not a single photo, video, or eyewitness account has surfaced. No cell phone footage, no blurry clips, not even a bystander's social media post. In a world where people record everything, especially when a celebrity is involved, the total lack of visuals is strange. Even more confusing is the absence of lifeguards that day. Authorities claim they weren't present due to resource issues, but also admitted the beach had been flagged for danger long before. And once Malcolm's death made headlines, those same officials said they were suddenly redirecting safety resources to that exact area. To fans and investigators alike, that timing doesn't feel like a coincidence. It feels like a reaction, a rushed attempt to cover for something that never should have happened. The fact that no one captured even a single image of the scene has people questioning if the real story was hidden before it even had a chance to get out. When beaches known for danger go unmonitored, and the cameras suddenly go quiet after a public figure dies, it doesn't just look bad, it looks like someone wanted it that way. And for those paying attention, that eerie silence speaks volumes. Before we dive any deeper, I just want to take a second to thank you for watching. This channel is so close to hitting 500 subscribers. Right now, I'm sitting at 470, and it means the world to me. What's wild is that over 99% of viewers still aren't subscribed. So if you're enjoying this breakdown and want to see more deep dives like this, hit that subscribe button. Every single sub makes a difference and helps this channel grow. Let's build this together. Thank you for watching, and now back to the video. The deeper people dig into the timeline of Malcolm's final moments, the more things stop making sense, and that's when the rumors really start. Early reports about how long Malcolm was in the water vary widely. Some say minutes, others say closer to an hour. Details about who called for help and when responders arrive are vague at best. Even the number of people who witnessed him struggle hasn't been confirmed. Inconsistent facts like these are what first triggered the theory that something darker may have taken place. And then came the most chilling rumor yet. What if Malcolm didn't drown naturally at all? According to whispers online, some believe he may have been poisoned before ever entering the water. A slow-acting substance, they say, that would take effect just as he got into the ocean, making it look like a tragic accident, but preventing him from fighting back. While there's no hard proof of this theory, the very fact that people are asking these questions show how little trust exists in the official story. When timelines don't match and key details stay hidden, people are forced to fill in the blanks themselves. And that's exactly what's happening here. Whether or not the poisoning theory is true, it reveals something powerful. People believe Malcolm was targeted. That's not a random idea, it's a reflection of how suspicious the circumstances have become. And for those who think this was a message, not a mistake, the timeline might be the biggest red flag of all. 2 days before his death, Malcolm released a podcast that now feels more like a warning than a conversation. Was he trying to tell us something? The episode, titled Not All Hood, explored what it meant to survive as a black man in America. He talked about stereotypes, media portrayals, and the pressure to rise above a system that constantly pushes back. But there was one moment in particular that now feels impossible to ignore. In the episode, Malcolm said, "Black survival in itself is black excellence." At the time, it sounded like a powerful reflection, but now, fans are asking if it was something more, a coded farewell, or even a final message. Rumors say that his family listened to that episode again after his death and felt the tone was different, more final than usual. Some even believe Malcolm knew something was coming, and this podcast was his way of speaking out before he couldn't anymore. When someone dies suddenly, everything they said in their final days takes on new meaning. That's why this episode has sparked such deep concern. It wasn't just emotional, it was heavy, thoughtful, urgent. Whether or not Malcolm knew what would happen, he clearly felt a need to speak with clarity and truth. That episode isn't just content, it's a possible clue. And now, with the timeline of his death so tight, fans believe Not All Hood may have been more than a title. It may have been a final stand, a voice refusing to be boxed in, even as silence closed in around him. The more you listen to Malcolm's words, the more one thing becomes clear. He wasn't afraid to speak the truth, and that might have made him a target. Throughout his career, Malcolm made it known he was more than just a sitcom star. He called out how the media simplifies and flattens the black experience. He challenged the idea that black excellence should be tied to wealth or fame, and he made space for real conversations about cultural identity and survival. But history has shown that when black public figures speak too boldly, tragedy tends to follow. Fans are already drawing comparisons to Nipsey Hussle, who was killed after promoting black ownership, or Martin Lawrence, whose public breakdown in 1996 included him yelling, "They're trying to kill me," only for doctors to later confirm no substances were found in his system. These cases, paired with Malcolm's sudden death, are beginning to feel less like isolated events and more like a chilling pattern. Being outspoken shouldn't be a risk, but time and time again, it seems to be. For many fans, Malcolm didn't just drown, he joined the list of powerful voices lost under suspicious circumstances. Whether it's coincidence or conspiracy, the outcome is the same: another truth teller gone too soon. And the more fans revisit his podcast, his interviews, and his message, the more convinced they become that Malcolm's voice wasn't just silence, it was shut down. And now, people are listening more closely than ever, wondering what else he might have tried to say before it was too late. One of the most emotional and confusing parts of the story centers on Malcolm's daughter. Some early reports claim she was right there with him when he drowned, but that version quickly started to fall apart. Shortly after news broke, several outlets and social media pages said Malcolm had been swimming with his daughter when tragedy struck. It added a heartbreaking layer that his child may have witnessed the final moments. But just days later, Costa Rican police issued a clarification. His daughter was not with him in the water when he drowned. According to their statement, by the time he entered the ocean, she wasn't swimming with him. The family was nearby, but not in the water. That official update contradicted what many people believed, and it raised a much bigger issue. Why was there so much confusion to begin with? Why were details about such a high-profile case so sloppy, inconsistent, and unconfirmed? Some fans now believe the changing story around his daughter is just one more sign that the public hasn't been told everything. This conflicting information adds to the growing distrust around the case. When even basic facts, like who was there and when, keep shifting, people start wondering what else is being covered up or rewritten. Malcolm's daughter may not have witnessed a drowning, but the fact that so many believe she did, and that it had to be publicly corrected, point to something deeper, a story that's either being poorly managed or intentionally controlled. And that confusion has left fans, and possibly the family, grappling with more questions than closure. One suspicious death is a tragedy, but several, with the same eerie pattern, that's when people stop calling it coincidence and start calling it a cover-up. According to online whispers, Malcolm's family is considering hiring a private investigator. They allegedly want someone to retrace his final steps, confirm who was there, and uncover the truth that no one else seems to be pursuing. But they're not the only ones thinking something deeper is going on. Fans are pointing to a string of recent tragedies involving outspoken Black voices. Angie Stone died in a car crash days after posting about stolen publishing rights and vowing to expose those responsible. Jamie Foxx hinted at something similar just before his own medical scare. And Malcolm's death, coming just after a powerful podcast and amid whispers of foul play, fits that same pattern too neatly to ignore. When these events start lining up, people naturally connect the dots. They see truth tellers being taken out of the spotlight just as their messages start to gain traction. The fact that Malcolm's death is being talked about alongside other high-profile cases shows how deeply this story is resonating. Whether or not it was part of a larger plot, it's raising real fears about what happens when someone refuses to stay silent. And if Malcolm was trying to say something in those final days, it looks like more people are finally starting to listen. Malcolm-Jamal Warner didn't chase drama, he didn't seek controversy, and that's exactly why his sudden death feels so out of place. Unlike many former child stars, Malcolm avoided the Hollywood spotlight after his sitcom days. He shifted towards spoken word, independent work, and podcasts that focus on truth, culture, and healing. His reputation stayed clean, and his message grew stronger. Fans admired him for speaking up, not for fame, but because it mattered. He wasn't ranting on social media or trying to stir attention. He was focused, deliberate, and passionate about changing how Black voices are heard and represented. And then, just as his platform seemed to be growing again, he was gone. No warning, no buildup, just silence. And for many, that's exactly what feels off. When people live loud, messy public lives, tragedy feels like a possible risk. But when someone moves quietly, with purpose, and still ends up taken out of the spotlight, that sparks real concern. It makes fans ask what message was he trying to send, and who didn't want him to say it. Malcolm's death didn't just cut short a career, it interrupted a movement. One where his voice was finally being heard in a new, powerful way. And that silence that followed, it didn't feel like grief, it feels like something was shut down. And that makes his legacy even more important to protect. No footage, no timeline, a chilling podcast, and now, whispers that his family never believed the official story. From the beginning, Malcolm's death was treated like an open and shut accident, but everything that's come out since, missing details, conflicting reports, and a suspiciously timed podcast, has made people question everything. The rumors about a poison theory, the eerie silence from witnesses, the lack of even a single video at a crowded beach. These aren't wild conspiracy theories, they're the cracks in a story that's starting to collapse. And with reports claiming his family is quietly digging for answers, that search may just be the beginning. When truth tellers disappear, someone always benefits. And in this case, too many people believe Malcolm's voice was silence, not loss. If even a fraction of these suspicions turn out to be true, then we're looking at something much bigger than a drowning. We're looking at a pattern, a system, one that punishes anyone who dares to challenge it. Malcolm's final podcast wasn't just his last recording, it may have been his last final warning. And now that people are finally paying attention, the silence surrounding his death might not last much longer.